right. Welcome, welcome. Ah, this is the time of year where I feel as though I've already been in the year for a year, in the beginning of the year. And wanted to just appreciate all of you for choosing to spend your time on the first part of the week being in connection. I so look forward to this time. It really grounds my whole week. And it lets me know that just something that's so simple, the loop of awareness and the movements that go with fear melters, our mind says, oh, it couldn't be that easy. Life is difficult and hard, and you need to work hard to make changes. And so part of what we're experimenting with is really how easy it is to open up more of a flow of love and connection. As I was preparing for today, I had a word arise, and the word was regard. And so I have this really cool thing that I look up on. It's called a visual thesaurus that you can get on your computer, and it gives you all of these different ways of looking at a particular word. And so I looked up regard, and I want to have you just try on, first of all, regard. Just when you think of that word, let yourself try on what that might mean and how you experience that in your body. And I also am just about to sneeze. We're in the middle of a huge rainstorm here, so I'm going to just mute myself for a second. I'm back. So regard is to look at attentively. So when someone says, especially in French, regarder, look at attentively. And I noticed that regard and attention are in the same definition with each other. So giving your attention to something, I'd like you to choose to give your attention to something going on in you. And then there's paying particular notice. So for me, that means I'm really honing my attention in a particular way. So I'd love to have you look out around you really attentively. So like I was finishing getting ready and I looked out the back and I was regarding that one of our hoses that generally puts water into the garden has come loose. And so I went, oh, okay, something to give my attention to after this call. So for me, it is a kind of a little bit of a searchlight where I'm giving special attention. And for me, the way I experience that in my body is that I give more of a focus. So I want to have you experiment with a wide focus and then choosing to particularly give your attention to a pile of leaves or a light that you can see across the street. And then bring your attention back to you, kind of doing a scan through your body and then giving your particular attention to some place in your body. And let yourself do that for a few times of circulating, just letting your attention go out and then really kind of focusing it, and then letting your attention come to you, something going on inside you. I was just having the thought too that what we do on these Mondays is fill our reservoir. And we're having the experience here in California of having a lot of reservoir filling right now. We're in the middle of a massive storm, so everybody is hunkered down. And to be able to receive all that might be coming toward you. So sometimes we think of, well, the reservoir gets filled a little bit at a time, but maybe what if it got filled all at once? How can you make room in you for all of that abundance? Having your reservoir filled, are you prepared to have your reservoir filled? I was realizing, oh, I have oh, I need to make some adjustments in order to have enough space to have my reservoir filled. Yeah. And the other definition that I found of regard is a desire for someone's welfare. I really love that. So having regard for others is having a desire for others' welfare, for others' well-being. And so I'm thinking that regard as a baseline used to be much more a part of our society, that we could kind of count on a certain, hello, how are you? Have a good day, but with a genuine regard. And I want to open the faucets to us experiencing a baseline of regard, of having a desire for others' well-being as part of the way we use our attention. And so I want to invite you to practice that with your partners here on the call, is giving that kind of regard to yourself and letting your body respond to that. And then giving regard to someone, maybe even somebody that you don't know on the call, somebody whose name is not familiar, or somebody whose name is not even showing up with a picture. You can just send regard to them. And then back to you, because so often we get lost out there and just kind of keep going out there. So bringing your attention, you could bring your attention back to you with a nice love scoop. Take some of that regard and bring it back to, I'm going to bring some to my high chest and throat since I'm a little phlegmy today. And letting your body respond. And then gathering up regard and then sending it to somebody else on the call. And letting it land on them. And you might even intuitively let it land somewhere in them that you're drawn to, like the middle of their back or under their feet, and just that regard for their well-being. And I have my camera angled so that when you're looking this direction, you can also notice that there's my best model for receiving is now on the chair curled up. This is Greta. Greta has no upper limit as far as I can tell. I'll pet her and she just turns so I can get it another place and then another place. And then she turns around so that I can start the whole thing all over again. And she will just stay there. She seems to have no upper limit. And so she's a great model for me of, oh, I could receive even more. Oh, I could receive even more. So I have her here as a model, because what she's doing, it looks like she's sleeping, but she's actually absorbing all these good vibes that we're creating. So letting yourself, using the love scoops to come back to you. The other thing I notice is the slow down that allows me to actually absorb. Because one of the things we notice is if the water comes too fast and too strong, the earth can't really absorb it, especially if there's been a drought. And if you've been experiencing any kind of a drought in your own sense of well-being, it's really worth your while to continue opening up the space to receive. And just ask yourself, would you be willing to receive lots and lots of regard? Would you be willing to regard yourself more and more with a wish for well-being, for expanding into more loving attention, for enjoying, for savoring? And would you be willing to let go of the myths and the mythologies that you've been living out of? Like when I notice that they're reporting on the rain, they're saying, but we're still in a drought. For most people, there's always the but. Something good is happening, but. And to me, that's an upper limit. So I invite you to start noticing and shifting those ritual upper limits. Like, my mother used to say, just wait. And I always go, well, like, just wait for what? What am I waiting for? It was really like a just wait. But the implication was things are going well now, but just wait. And so I think we all have our learned upper limits. So I'd like you to just check in right now of where's your thermostat? How can you experience kind of the outer limits of your own receiving? I'm feeling inclined to stand up, so I'm going to do that. Because for me, that's one of the ways that I can open more space in my body is by standing and feeling how is the flow from the earth coming up through me. So that's another regard. We can have regard for the earth, for our foundation, for the miracle of us all being here. I was reading the title to an article the other day that said, life is an accident of time and space. So the fact that we're here and experiencing life, that we're alive, I'd like you to give some regard, some well-being to the wow that here we are in this vast universe. There's life here. And as we give more and more of our attention to regarding, giving special attention, opening up a sense of wishing for another's well-being, and then returning that to you, are you willing to also wish for your well-being? Are you willing to receive? Just as you're passing people, I do this when I'm out in the world, even through a mask, I can do it now, because I always wear a mask inside now. I can feel that other people can feel my regard. And it is in this simple shifting of attention. That's really the basis of it. This loop of awareness is such a magical experience, and it's based in something so simple. So the bottom line here is that as you're shifting your attention, the big thing is just shifting it the other way. So noticing where is your attention, and is it nice and full of smushy well-being? Like how could you do another way of expressing regard? Another way of expressing regard for somebody on the call or somebody that you know who's out there in the world that you would like to give some special attention to. I'm thinking of our friend Terry Morganti Fisher and Stephen, giving some special attention to them. They're going through a death transition right now with one of their relatives. And then coming back to you, because I know for me, when I can get so involved in feeling into that I forget to come back to me. So I know all of you givers on here, I know that's the thing that happens is they get caught out there. So scooping back in, and find a new way to do that. So like I'm going to give myself little noogies, head noogies, opening up my head, because I receive a lot of energy through my head. And if I open up more space in my head, I can feel more energy in my feet. So when you do something new, notice how that impacts the rest of your body. But the basic shift, and as you practice this, I've been practicing this for decades, more keeps opening up. The opportunity to attend is really infinite, and to regard. And I just love that regard. So that's the word of the week that you can modify and take into your life. And I did find my Presence Connect play, which disappeared last week. So it's back. So I'm going to tap and see what's our Presence Connect play. For those of you who might be new today, at the end of our 15 minutes, I love to pull up our Presence Connect Play app and have us all practice that together so we can deepen our experience of using Presence Connect Play in addition to our loop of awareness as an interaction model. I mean, this is what I do when I'm out in the world and when I'm interacting with people. I do presence, connect, play. That's what I do. And it creates so much delight and regard and connection. So I want to invite you into, presence is explore the 4 pillars of integrity. So taking one of the things I like to do is to pick a card every day and just notice how that fits in with what I'm intending, what I'm attending to. So the 4 pillars you can find on our foundation website. We have a bunch of videos. We have an electronic deck. So there's a lot to explore there. So I invite you to do that. And let me just pick one of them, the pillar of basically, I do what I say I'm going to do, and I don't do what I say I'm not going to do. That's sort of in the agreement arena. That for me is the basic one. And so that's one that I focus on when things get wobbly in the world. I focus on, okay, I want to come back to my agreements because that's the infrastructure in which everything occurs. If I say, I'm going to be on this call at 9, and then I wander off and I'm not on the call at 9, then the call doesn't happen in the way that, that we had all intended. So agreements allow us to collaborate. And so that's for me, the first thing that I attend to if things are wobbly is the area of agreements. So I want to invite you into that. So connect says loop and shift attention. So we have been doing that. So loop really simply means, and at first I call it a lurch of attention, because you get over there and then you kind of go, oh, right, I need to come back over here. And it may kind of be awkward and it's not very graceful, doesn't matter. And then it might be shifting your attention. But there's a point at which, as you're practicing, you'll start feeling the fluidity that you can give attention to you and to somebody else. So let yourself this is one of my favorites, is I can give attention to me and attention to you. I can give attention to me and to you. There's space for both of us. We have this kind of either or going, like it's all you or it's all me, but we can actually both be getting attention. And that's part of the magic of loop of awareness, is that you can be giving attention to you, giving attention to others. I can be giving attention to the whole group and be giving attention to what are we going to be doing next. So you get more available attention, which I think is extremely cool. So you might think, well, loop of awareness, I know how to do that. I look out and then I look in, I look out. No, there's a whole world that you can play with loop of awareness. And then play, match and make bigger. So matching, I'd like you to just notice something going on inside you. It could be a physical sensation, it could be emotion, it could be thoughts, it could be something you're imagining. And what I'd like you to do is to let your hands paint or sculpt that experience that you're having inside. So like if it's a tight neck, you're letting yourself match that. And while you're matching it, make it a little bit bigger. Because I find if I make it a little bit bigger, it starts to change into something else. And that way I start creating and co-creating with what's going on inside. And it turns into just pure creativity rather than something's wrong. So rather than saying, uh-oh, when something's happening, I invite you to go into it, make it bigger, and then see what comes up out of that. So that's part of the principles that we explore in our longer courses, but you can keep practicing them with Presence, Connect, Play. Yum. So I'm going to take leave now. And Michelle, are you still planning to be available for Q&A for people? Super duper. So Michelle's going to focus a little bit on any questions that people have about our upcoming training for any of you who have them or are asking for a friend. So so until next time, thank you so much. And I'm And I don't think we're going to have to get our boats out here, but whatever is needed, we're going to do our best to open up to receiving all this great abundance. So much love to all of you. Mwah. Until next time.